So calling yourself an American is now offensive, at least according to Stanford University. Yes, I'm completely serious. Over the last couple of years, it seems like people are perpetually getting offended over pretty much anything nowadays. I mean, people get offended over the most ridiculous things, and there's pretty much, it just continues to get more and more ridiculous, and that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. So Stanford actually recently released a statement of a bunch of words that they'll be taking out of classroom. Only 18% of the people watching this video right now are actually subscribed to the channel. Don't be part of the 81%. Subscribe to the channel. You have nothing to lose. Okay, I'm gonna start it off by saying I'm not an American, okay? I'm from just across the border. I'm in Canada. However, when I think of American universities, I think of three. I think of Stanford. I think of Harvard. Honestly, I take that back. I can only name two. It's one of the most prestigious universities in all of America, hell, maybe even the entire world, and they're coming up with their most ridiculous crap you can imagine. Parodists have it rough these days, since so much of modern life and culture resembles the Babylon Bee. The latest evidence is that Stanford University administrators in May published an index of forbidden words to be eliminated from the school's website and computer code, provided inclusive replacements to help re-educate the benign. Call yourself an American? Please don't. Better to say U.S. citizen per the bias hunters, lest you slight the rest of the Americas. Immigrant is also out, with person who has immigrated as the approved alternative. Is the iron law of academic writing. Why use one word when four will do? You can't master your subject at Stanford any longer. In case you hadn't heard, the school instructs the historical masters enslaved people. And don't dare design a blind study which unintentionally perpetuates that disability is somehow abnormal or negative, furthering an ableist culture. Blind studies are good or useful, but never mind. Mass studies is to be preferred. Follow the science. Gangbusters is banned, but the index, it involves the notion of police action against gangs in a positive light, which may lead to racial undertones. Not to beat a dead horse, a phrase at the index says normalizes violence against animals, but you used to say having a graduate degree in the humanities to write something that stupid. So let's take this apart one by one. This is words from Stanford that they say they're no longer going to be used on their website because, it's quote unquote offensive. So to start it off, they say you can't say American anymore. You gotta call yourself a U.S. citizen because apparently the other Americas will be injured or offended. I mean, come on now. I am part of North America and I'm not offended when people from the US call themselves Americans. You know why? Because I call myself a Canadian. I've never considered being offended over something so stupid. I really can't fathom how anyone could. I'm in part of North America and I'm not offended. I mean, do you guys really think if people in like Mexico are offended because they're part of South America and the people from the US are calling themselves Americans? Like, are you serious? And now no longer you can say you're an immigrant. You have to say you're a person who immigrated. Like, how does that change it in the slightest? You know what I mean? Like, at least with the American one, it changed up the vocabulary just a little bit, going from American to US citizen, but changing immigrant from this person who has immigrated, it's just so fucking stupid, man. I mean, it's like it has the exact same word in the sentence. What is the point? I mean, yeah, like the article says, you're just replacing. Why use one word when four will do? I mean, seriously, how is saying more words to convey what you mean more intelligent? You know what I mean? Like, the whole point of language should be, to have these words like immigrant that convey what you're trying to say instead of person who has immigrated. I mean, it's just, it takes longer, and I don't know, there's nothing intelligent about this. I can't fathom why they'd want to change that. can't say master your subject at Stanford anymore. If you haven't heard that, historically masters enslaved people. It's like, holy shit, bro. I swear these people are living in like a completely different world. You know what I mean? They're living in their own little bubble where just everything is like a racial aggression or something. I mean, holy shit. When was the last time someone actually said, referred to themselves as a master in a offensively racial context? You know what I mean? Like, when I hear master, I think of like fucking Star Wars, or like, you know what, I actually think this is an interesting one because it's really effective actually here in Canada. I don't know if you guys know HGTV. It's like a house design whole channel where they flip houses and they sell houses, that kind of thing. But my mom watches it all the time, and you know what, I recently saw that they no longer are allowed to use the word master bedroom because people are quote unquote offended over it. They're now supposed to call it the main bedroom, and it's so serious to point where if you say master bedroom, you might lose ads or sponsors from your fucking house show. I mean, holy shit, this is so ridiculous. I cannot believe we're even covering something like this. And then they go on to say you no longer say you want to conduct a blind study because blind people might be offended. I mean, I'm sorry guys, if I am blind, the last thing I'm doing is being offended when someone says they're conducting a blind study. I'm more focused on living every single day. You know what, it's probably hard to live their daily lives when you can't see anything. I'm sure they're not, I can't imagine finding one blind person that's like, holy shit, you said blind, you want me to conduct in a blind study? Are you kidding me? You know what I mean? It's just like they have more important things to deal with. And it says it unintentionally perpetuates that disability is somehow abnormal or negative. I mean, not to be part of this quote unquote ableist culture, but I mean, is it not abnormal to not see? What percentage of the population is blind? It's pretty abnormal. And yeah, you know what, if I was blind, I think it would be pretty negative too. You know what, and that's the thing. It's like, you know what, I don't know enough about the science around being blind, but this kind of talk about stop being an ableist culture, I definitely think it'll maybe make people think less about how blind people are and how blind people live, and maybe be less empathetic towards them. And so simply not referring to blind studies anymore, you know what, it might be worse off than quote unquote offending a blind person. I cannot believe this. And then they also say you got to do a mask study now. It's like, well, what if the people who had to wear masks during like COVID, what if they're offended? It's like, oh my god, bro, I cannot believe this is a serious thing coming from Stanford, by the way. You can also no longer use gangbusters because it might it might have racial undertones. Bro, you guys do know that there's gangs of all kinds of races, right? Like, I like how this is like an implication. If anything, this sounds more racist, you know what I mean? It says it's a racial undertone, implying that gangs are predominantly minorities. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, I don't know if that's true or that's not true. I have no idea, but that sure sounds fucking offensive to me. Like, imagine being put into this gang category because you're not white or whatever. It's like, how can they say that is less offensive than just saying gangbusters? I mean, who the fuck says gangbusters either? Is that like American slang? Whatever. I just think this is so ridiculous, but that's just my thoughts. You can let me know your thoughts down in the comments. The other day, we made a video about how EDP is suffering stage 5 kidney failure. This is a crazy video you're not going to want to miss. Click here to watch it now.